Good afternoon and welcome to Judiciary. My name is Justin Wayne. I represent Legislative District 13, which is North Omaha, Northeast Douglas County, and I serve as the chair of Judiciary Committee. We'll start off by having members of the committee do self-introduction, starting with my right.
I'm Carolyn Bozin. I'm the state senator from District 25, which is Southeast Lincoln, Lancaster County.
Terrell McKinney, state senator from District 11, North Omaha.
Josh Hanson, committee legal counsel.
Angie Andrew, West Committee Clerk.
Good afternoon. I'm Wendy DeBoer. I am from District 10 in Northwest Omaha.
Barry DeKay, District 40, representing Holt, Knox, Cedar, Antelope, northern part of Pierce, and most of Dixon County.
Also assisting us is our new page, Rolf. He has his page badge on because he found it, and he works in my office. This afternoon, we'll be hearing four bills, and we'll be taking them up in the order that is listed outside the room. On the table to my right, you will find blue testifier sheets. If you are planning to testify today, please fill out the blue testifier sheet when you come up and hand it to Rolf, and we'll make sure we keep accurate records. If you do not wish to testify but wish to record your presence and position at the hearing, please fill out the gold sheet in the same over there in the same column. I'd also note that it is the legislature's policy that all letters must be received. Letters for the record must be received by the committee by 8 a.m. on the morning of the hearing. Online comments are to be submitted in lieu of personal testimony. Any handouts, please hand them to Rolf, and we'll make sure there's copies. If you know you're going to have handouts for a hearing today, please make sure you have 10 copies. Testimony will begin with the introducer's opening statement, followed by supporters of the bill, then opposition, then those who will be speaking in a neutral capacity. The introducer of the bill will then have an opportunity to make closing remarks. We ask that you begin your testimony by stating your first and last name and spell them for the record. We will be using the 3-minute light system today. When you begin your testimony, the light will be green. At yellow means it's 1 minute left, and in red, we will ask you to wrap up your final thoughts. I would like to remind everyone, including senators, please turn off your cell phones and put them on vibrate. You will see a lot of senators coming and going. We have other hearings. Me in particular, I have 4 over in revenue that I'll be coming in and back and forth on. That doesn't mean your testimony is not important. It is being recorded, and for the record, we will review it. With that, we will begin with today's hearing with LB 59. That's Shell bill. All right, I'm gonna stay right here because it's real short. My name is Justin Wayne. I represent Legislative District 13, which is North Omaha and Northeast Douglas County. This is truly a shell bill. There's no intent behind it other than that.
Can you spell your name?
Oh, spell my name. Thank you. JUSTINWAYNE. The purpose of this bill is just to make sure that if something goes off the rails during special session and we don't have a bill, this bill will be used as an overall catch provision to make any changes that we would need. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Senator Wayne? I don't see any. We'll take our first proponent. Welcome to your special session Judiciary Committee.
Well, thank you, Vice Chair DeBoer. Members of the Judiciary Committee, my name is John Cannon, JONCANNON. I'm the Executive Director of the Nebraska Association of County Officials, also known as NACO. I'd like to thank Senator Wayne for bringing this bill. We're in support of the bill as written. And the reason is because anytime that there's an ability, an opportunity for us to analyze expenditures and budgets in the counties, we're happy to do so, especially as it relates to the property tax. That's kind of our bread and butter. It's the lifeblood in which counties run. We're responsible for office space for the courts. We're responsible for their furniture and equipment. We're responsible for probation. And so when you look at those expenditures on a statewide basis, we've got sent out a sample, had 56 counties in it. Office space takes up about 0.4% on average of all the expenditures across the state. The range is about 0.1 to 1.4%. Median cost of $17,800 for courts and furniture and equipment. Probation's about $14,000. I'll not add much more to that. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions? I don't see any.
Great, thank you.
We'll take our next proponent. Our next proponent, seeing none opponents. Anyone in opposition to this bill? Now we'll go to neutral testimony. I don't see any. Senator Wayne, would you like to close on this bill? Senator Wayne waives closing. And that will end our hearing. One opponent, letter for the record. And now we'll move to our next bill that will end our hearing on LB 59 and open our hearing on LB 46. And surprisingly, Senator Wayne, take it away.
Thank you. My name is Justin Wayne, JUSTINWAYNE, and I represent Legislative District 13, which is North Omaha and Northeast Douglas County. Part of the call here today is to find property tax relief. And one of the ways that I think judiciary has always had the ability is to look at our juvenile and adult criminal system and our overall judicial system to find efficiencies and ways that we could save the local tax burden. As you just heard in the last bill, the county pays for a lot. They pay for meeting space, everything pretty much. So I introduced this bill a couple years ago. Senator Dorn introduced this bill last year. There is one hangup for the special session that will not allow this bill to move forward as written, but there is an alternative, and I'm going to mention both. Rule 5.5 of our legislative rules deal with any employee, public employee that that has a pension or a retirement. You have to introduce a bill the first 10 days in a 90-day session, and there has to be an actuarial analysis of the impact of that pension and the state taking them over. So the alternative is, and I don't have this amendment written yet, if you understand bill drafting and the amount of work they've been doing, but what we would do underneath the amendment that I'm proposing now before this committee is we would start off with a reimbursement. There would be a 90-day session next session in which another senator would have to bring that bill to include that actuarial analysis of the pensions. But a way that we could start immediately saving taxpayer dollars is to reimburse the counties for all their costs from the court systems, whether it be clerks, bailiffs, legal secretaries, and all the other things that the counties will surely come up and talk about. We estimate across the state that is around $35 million that is directly impacting the counties that we could reimburse them on and provide property tax relief by the state assuming or at least paying for, in this session, paying for those individual roles. And that's why this bill is important. It does provide direct property tax relief to the counties. And by my proposal to just do reimbursement, it does not at this point change over any responsibilities to the state or to the Supreme Court in that matter, but it does allow us to start the transition where at least we're moving in the direction of the state covering those costs at the local level. My theory is simple. Most of your district court costs and your county costs involves laws that we pass at this level. And so the local county should not bear the burden of enforcing those laws or maintaining our judicial system when it is in fact our laws and how we set everything from discovery rules to civil procedure to how things are filed. That is all done either by the Supreme Court rules or through legislative process. And so to me, this is the easiest unfunded mandate that we should fund. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Senator Wayne? Senator Wayne, I'll ask you a couple questions. So these are the unelected, not elected clerks?
Both. The initial bill calls for both. And so to get around that entire argument at this section, we would just provide for reimbursement. So whatever those costs are, the state would reimburse those costs.
So we would just take over the funding
Correct.
of the clerks, both elected and unelected?
Correct. Otherwise, we would have to waive our 5.15 rule. And talking to Senator McDonald this morning, a study would not be done, feasibly not be done for another 30 days. And none of us are hoping to be in a special session for 30 days. So that would be a fight that this body or a discussion this body would have to take on next year. But at a minimum, we can reimburse them.
Okay. Other questions? Thank you. I assume you're going to run over to revenue?
Yes.
All right, well, do you intend to close on this?
No.
Okay. All right, so with that, I'll have the first proponent. Is there anyone in favor of this bill? Welcome to the special session Judiciary Committee. I won't say that every time.
Thank you, Senator DeBoer, and I apologize that we have to meet so early. this time instead of our normal time. But with that, I'm here in support of LB 46 and any amendments that come with it. My name is Corey Steele, Corey Steel, and I'm the Nebraska State Court Administrator for the Administrative Office of the Courts and Probation. Testifying in strong support of LB 46 and any amendments. The Nebraska court system is considered a unified court system, almost. In 1970, the Nebraska Constitution was amended, resulting in several significant changes to the state court system. The amendments gave the Nebraska Supreme Court general administrative authority over all courts in the state. It shall be vested in the Supreme Court and shall be exercised by the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice shall be executive head of the courts. It may appoint an administrative authority director thereof. However, even in this constitutional change, a new charge of the Nebraska court and the Chief Justice still does not have full administrative authority over all functions of the state court system. LB 46 and the amendments that Senator Wayne has talked about is a path towards a better functioning court business model that will allow us to address some of the judicial branch's challenges and provide greater consistency in court administration for the state. In its current court business model form, county property taxes are paying and providing state court functions through the clerks of the district court, through bailiffs, through law clerks, through child support referees, etc. We currently have agreement with 10 counties where the administrative office has assumed responsibility of the district court. There's a map that's provided under these agreements. Currently outlined in state statute, the counties reimburse the administrative office for the portion of the staff cost. However, under LB 46, the state would assume 100% of the cost for managing the district court functions outlined in those counties. This would save those counties local property tax dollars, and no other counties would have to use local property tax dollars for a transition of the clerk of the district court duties or provide state court functions. A few areas of concern you will hear is there adequate staffing in these counties? How is the administrative office going to handle walk-in fines, protection orders, on and on and on? The administrative office of the court currently provides all of these functions in all 93 counties with our county court clerk's offices. So this is not a new business. This is not anything that we haven't done. We do this already in 93 counties. I ask for your support in LB 46 and any amendment outlined by Senator Wayne. We'll be more than willing to work with anybody through either a special session or into next session on this property tax relief package. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Are there questions for this testifier, Senator McKinney?
Thank you, Vice Chair DeBoer. Thank you for your testimony. Are there any other states that follow this model?
Every state's a little bit unique and different across the United States. We have centralized court systems where everything is under the administrative structure and all court staff are under the purview of the Chief Justice, Supreme Court, and the Court Administrator's Office. Then we have decentralized states, which are county by county. So the Court Administrator's Office in those states really works for the Supreme Court, court rules, and manages the court system through court rule structure. And so those are county by county, where judges, all of the court staff, all of the clerk's offices are all county-based and property tax county funded. So there's both models out there.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? So on the map that you gave us, the pink, blue, the green, you would be paying for all the pink, all the blue, and all the green?
Under the proposal that Senator Wayne, correct, we would have, because right now in our state, we have two-tier clerk's offices. We have clerks of the district court, clerks of the county court, in all 93 counties. What this would do is transition the clerk of the district court duties, and we would then transition to have that under the state instead of the county. So it would be
Just for
county.
purposes of financing?
Correct.
Would the individual clerks in the individual counties still get to decide like what their hours were or things like that?
At this point in time, there's court rule that says the court shall be open and defines what that means. And so typically what we see is 8 to 4:30, 8 to 5, depending on the kind of the county courthouse structure. We have some that are 4:30, some that are 5, but those are the,
My point was, those folks that are, sorry to cut you off, those
Go ahead.
those folks that are sort of on their own right now, that are being paid by their county rather than by the state, would they retain whatever autonomy they have now under this new system? Or would the state also, when it takes over funding, want to be more involved in the day-to-day management?
so the structure that we have within our court administrator's office is all of the current clerk magistrates in the county court work for the judge that they are there to serve. We provide administrative functions for that. We also provide policy procedure and how information is entered into our court case management system. We have a statewide court case management system that all courts enter their information. We have all the hiring processes, all the payroll, all of those administrative functions come from the administrator's office. So with that said, the day-to-day really is by the clerk magistrate or the clerk of the court. They run the day-to-day operations of what goes on within the office, but we set guidelines, precedents, and procedure on how things should operate.
So I guess my question is do we expect there's a lack of a shift away from local control with this change?
It depends on how you're going to define local control.
Always does.
Yes. So if,
I'm just
but
trying to
it's saying
understand
right
what
now, so if you're going to talk about the ex officios or the elected officials are two hybrids of clerks of the district court. Ex officios typically have multiple functions within the county. They're usually elected as not the clerk of the district court, but one of the clerk of the county, and then it's a duty and responsibility they have. If it is an elected clerk of the district court, the only local control would be the county funding their budget.
Right, that's what I'm trying to figure out, is if there's any change in the local control by this change in finance.
The funding would come from the state. In my brief discussions with Senator Wayne at this point, the funding would come from the state, and they would become eventually state employees through how he's projected this to me. But right now, under his current, which we haven't seen the amendment, so it's hard to react to it, is we would just offset the cost from the counties, and we would then, through the state, pay for those county court clerks' offices, bailiffs, and all the other actors that are there to perform state court functions.
So one of the weird things, from thousands of hearings about this is that you don't get to come up after the other side has talked and sort of answer the questions. So what I'm trying to do is figure out what I'm going to hear later, and then what you're going to respond to it, so that I can better understand both sides, because they can respond to you, but you won't be able to respond to them.
So currently, in our state court system in the state of Nebraska, there's only one individual that is elected out of all of the state court actors. So clerk magistrates are not elected. They're hired and appointed by the presiding judge. Judges are appointed through the appointment process that you all are aware of. They do stand for retention election, which is much different than running for an election. There in the 70s, when the constitutional change came, judges used to be the local judges were elected, and the decision was that judges should no longer be elected and run on a partisan ballot for election. The only piece of our court system that there's an elected official is the clerk of the district court. So that's a fundamental belief by our Supreme Court that in our court system, there should not be an elected official.
Okay, this is helpful. Anybody else have any questions now? Senator DeKay.
Thank you, Vice Chair DeBoer. The 10 counties that you have taken over the administrative duties, how did that process come together? Did they come to you? How did that work?
Yeah, so currently in state statute, it allows for ex officio counties, if they do not want to perform the clerk of the district court duties, they can contact my office, and we can enter into a local agreement that the county board signs and come up with an agreement and transition those duties to us. And right now, how we have that set up with those 10 counties, and it's a little bit different with each county in the sense of a payment structure. If we have to add staff, or resources because of the caseload of that district court, the county has offset those costs. So we have some counties that pay for a position, others pay for a part of position or what have you. And that's an agreement that we have with the county. And those are year-to-year agreements that we meet with the county and the county commissioners, and they agree upon.
Did other 83 counties contact you guys to try to do the same services for them? Or?
Yes, I've had quite a few over the last several years. Right now, I'm in contact with one that has contacted me to start the process, and it's going in front of their county board in 2 weeks. We have had several others through the years, and once we get down to it and the county would have to reimburse us for some cost, that seems to be a barrier and an impediment that their county just can't afford to pay for additional staffing resources or time that would be needed.
And then you said this is renewed every year with the county?
It's reviewed, our current contracts are reviewed either every year. I think we have a couple that are every other year because they do a 2-year cycle. So we work with the counties on what is the best time frame for them to be reviewed.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Decay. Any other questions?
Can I follow up?
Senator Bozen.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I'm trying to follow some of this and understand sort of where the cost savings for Nebraskans will come from as a result of something like this transitionally. Can you answer that?
So this is, here's what I'll say. It's difficult right now because the current bill that was submitted, plus some potential amendments that Senator Wayne is working on, is where we got to see what is in the writing, right? How it's written and what have you. But if my understanding is correct in working with Senator Wayne, if the staff that are paid for out of local property tax dollars by the county was shifted to the state, that would then provide local property tax relief to those counties. That's where it's not per se at this point in time a savings, because we would pay for all the staff that are currently there. We think over time within the court system, with the technology that we're implementing within our court system, we're on the cusp of kicking off a new case management system. And those types of things, we think we'll continue to see savings within our court structure and our court system. And eventually through attrition, we'll probably be able to save some positions over time.
But that isn't dependent on the language of this bill, because what you're saying is
Correct.
with or without this, those same, I mean, I assume you're talking about justice.
Correct.
Thank God. Side note.
Right.
I'll need your help. I'll need your help
Call me first.
down the road.
I mean, we're still using a black screen with green typing on it that no one can read. But those changes are coming, so I guess I understand though, we can streamline the process, I guess, what I'm gathering from Senator Wayne's efforts here and amendment proposed. Is that what you're understanding?
Correct, and it's that start to alleviate the counties from paying for state court system individuals that are performing state court functions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Boz. Another question, Senator Decay has another one.
Thank you. Would this be set up as a special fund, or just take it out of general funds and cover the cost of this?
That's a great question.
Well, thank you.
I don't think I don't think that it's come to that point of how would that be set up? Obviously, again, Senator Wayne talked about his amendment. It's with bill drafters. We have to see it and see what that does. I'm sure there's going to be more input in how that should work and function. If it's a pass through from the state court administrator's office or what have you, I'm not sure yet. But I think the goal and the vision is alleviate the counties from paying for state court personnel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Decay. Any other questions? Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Take our next proponent.
Good
Welcome.
afternoon, Vice Chair DeBoer, members of the Judiciary Committee. My name is Tim Haruza, last name spelled H-R-U-Z-A, appearing today in support of LB 46 on behalf of the Nebraska State Bar Association. Let me first start by saying that, or clarifying, I think our support here today is for the concept of what we're talking about and what Mr. Steele sort of explained. I recall this bill sitting up in that chair as legal counsel for the committee. The first hearing I sat through was about 8 years ago on the elimination of the clerk of the district court office, transition to this, and the conversation has continued. That started before I was here, and it has continued now that I'm working and representing the State Bar Association. And I think from our standpoint, on behalf of the attorneys that are practicing in the courts, over that time span, we have seen the value of what Mr. Steele is talking about in terms of finding ways to promote efficiency within how our district courts operate compared with the county courts and the rest of the state court system, but also efficacy and ensuring that we have consistent operations for what amounts ultimately to an administrative office that's doing functions to help the public get access to the courts. And make sure that the things that they are doing, that they're filing, that when the court's open and those sorts of things are operating smoothly. And we believe that more conversation about how to do this the best way and how to ensure that we can unify, I would say, the district and the county courts and the Supreme Court is a worthwhile conversation. That's why I'm here in support of the concept today. We'll continue to work with Senator Wayne, with the court administrator staff, whether it's this version of the bill or the amendment that was discussed earlier to see if this is the right solution for Nebraska state courts. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you for your time this afternoon.
Any questions for Mr. Caruza? I don't see any.
Thank you.
Let's have our next proponent. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of the bill? We'll switch then to opponents. Welcome again.
Thank you. We're not on a shell bill, right? Just want to be sure.
I don't think this is a shovel.
Okay, good. Madam Vice Chair DeBoer, members of the Judiciary Committee, my name is John Cannon, Joncannon. I'm the Executive Director of the Nebraska Association of County Officials, sometimes referred to as NACO, here to testify today in respectful opposition to LB 46. Certainly appreciate Senator Wayne's efforts in this regard to provide streamlining and efficiencies within the court system and really within county government. We do appreciate the effort. I appreciate everything that Mr. Steele has done in this regard. I mean, he's worked very tirelessly on behalf of the judicial branch of the government and Chief Justice Heavican in particular. I've not seen the amendment. Frankly, I didn't see this bill until 3 days ago. No one's come to talk to me about it, and no one has to talk to me about it. That's fine, no big deal. But as was indicated, what are the questions going to be from the opponents? Local control is probably the top of the list. Mr. Steele more ably than I did described kind of how we got here, where we started to sever the link between the locals and their judicial branch of government. And frankly, you start to see that erosion more and more. But going back in time even further, back to 1867 when we were first made a state, even before that, when we first had a collection of counties in the Nebraska territory, people were very, very proud of the courthouse that they built. They didn't build a county administrative house; they built a courthouse. Because they were proud of the fact that they're going to have the power of the law in their counties as part of their community. What is being proposed here, or what we're on the path toward, is really severing that last remaining link between the locals and the judicial branch of government. And I mean, if that's the direction we want to go, if we want to centralize power in the state, we certainly can do that. However, I'll make a couple of observations first. One, the way that we're going about this in this bill is not much of a savings at all. The people that would be taken over, that would be immediately taken over, would be the ex officio clerks of the district court. These are folks that have other jobs in addition to being the clerk of the district court. They're the clerk, they could be the register of deeds, they could be the assessor, they could have a number of hats that they're wearing. And we're essentially removing one of those hats. And so these folks are going to remain in those offices, and we're going to be paying their salaries. So not much of a savings there. There is the possibility of having other counties come on, much like we do now. The other thing, though, that I want to make as far as an observation is that we have seen this movie before and its sequel, and we know how it ends. Several years ago, I would certainly recommend that you all take a look at several years ago when the state wanted to centralize the assessment function, which gets a lot of attention these days, I know. And the state took over certain offices of the assessor in those counties that wanted to petition for it, much like a lot of what we read in this bill here. I can tell you that as we moved on down that road, And there were about 9 counties that jumped on. Don't ask me which ones they were. I used to know them, but I don't anymore. But as 9 counties jumped on, I'm out of time. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Can you finish telling what you were going to tell just there?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Thank you. I appreciate it. And so 9 counties came on, and then we got to a point where there was an outrage about assessed values in Omaha, Nebraska. And, maybe the Douglas County assessor should be part of this assessment function that the state has taken over. And the cost of running the assessor's office in Douglas County made its way over here to the legislature. And in no uncertain terms was Douglas County told, don't even think about it. And so that really killed the program at that point. And so I guess my observation is that, if we're going to do this, let's have the honest conversation about what it costs to take over the whole thing and see if the legislature truly wants to do that. Otherwise, I can tell you the piecemeal approach, we've tried it before in the past, it does not work. I'll conclude by saying there are other people with a lot more knowledge about the actual functions of the clerk of the district court behind me who are going to come in and fill in any gaps you might have, but I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Are there questions for this testifier? So I'll ask you one. You started off by saying, they built the courthouses because they were proud of them. That won't change. There'll still be a courthouse and there will still be hearings and law that's dispensed from the county level, right?
We will have, well, I guess that depends, ma'am. The thought is that we're going to be essentially providing free rent to an organization with whom we have no tangible connection. And yeah, they'll be dispensing law and then issuing judgment from the bench and everything like that. But that won't be a county function. It will not be something that belongs to the counties. The question is going to become, well, wait a minute, why are we providing them with rent?
Even if they're just paying you back for what the cost of this particular person is. Because that's what I understand is going to be what we're going to do is you're just going to get money. And I mean, I'm sort of shocked because aren't you usually saying give the counties the money for the things that you're requiring us to do? So if you're just going to be given money to do it, is that a problem?
Well, under the terms of this bill, they're going to be taking away a duty from someone that's already being paid by the county. And those other duties that they're undertaking on behalf of the county aren't going away. And so
I don't think they're taking, under the amendment as Senator Wayne described it, they're not going to be taking away the duty from anybody. They're just going to be paying the counties for what the counties incur in the expenses to do that duty.
I haven't seen the amendment. I heard Senator Wayne describe it in his opening. I haven't seen it. I can't really comment very well on that. I apologize.
Okay. Would you object to no one takes any power away from any clerks? They just give the counties the money that it costs.
We would want to look at what that looks like. My experience has been there are typically strings attached, and you have to make sure that the juice is worth the squeeze.
Fair. What kind of strings are typically attached? Because I'm trying to decide here what to do on this. So what kind of strings are typically attached, and what are you worried about?
Over in revenue, they're having a great conversation about K through 12 funding. Mm-hmm. I'm a firm believer in the golden rule. Whoever has the gold makes the rules. And so the expectation is that, and not the expectation, our learned experience is that when the state is saying we're going to fund these things, the state is also saying, and we're going to tell you exactly how to do it. And in fact, Mr. Steele actually mentioned this in his testimony in response to a question of your senator. And that was, what does the county get to do as far as, paid holidays and those sorts of things? If it's a judicial day, then the judicial branch of government is going to say the courthouse has to remain open. I can tell you that I am far more comfortable with the Kimball County Board saying we're going to close the courthouse because there's a blizzard that's going on right here, rather than someone that's sitting in Lincoln saying you have to remain open no matter what's going on. And those are the sorts of strings that are almost always attached.
Got it. Thank you. That was helpful.
Yes, ma'am.
Other questions? I don't see any. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Next, opponent.
Good afternoon. My name is Donita Bowie, DAUNITTA BUOY. I'm the Rock County ex officio clerk. I've been an employee of the county clerk's office for 22 years, 16 years as deputy and 6 years as the clerk. If LB 46 passes, I will still have a job. But to lose another service to our people of rural Nebraska would be devastating. The county no longer has DHHS services available locally. If we want in-person help, we have to go to Ainsworth. I can speak from experience, not a good move for rural Nebraska. 17 miles might not seem far, but it's 60 miles for me. You can spend a half a day or more trying to get help of trying to contact them by phone. I know from experience, both parents are in the nursing home. We used to do child support. The state took that over also. I've spent a half a day trying to get questions answered there also, starting with one person, making a complete circle with the different departments and ending up back with the beginning contact and not getting my question answered. Court access is another issue. It is almost impossible to talk to anyone face-to-face anymore. Half a day, once a week for county court is not good customer service. Rock County has 8 civil cases filed this year. My district court does. Dissolutions, paternity, protection orders, 3 criminal cases. Why can't county court be combined with district court? We are there from 9 to 5, 5 days a week. We can provide that face-to-face customer service. Whatever happened to the vote of the people to decide which way this goes? This should not be a legislative decision. If this bill passes, the legislature also needs to consider taking on the court-related costs, juries, court-appointed attorneys, and court costs. And as an ex officio clerk, I answer to the Supreme Court. I answer to the Secretary of State. I answer to the Department of Revenue. My job is to do the best job I can.
Thank you. Are there questions? Did you spell your name, by the way?
Yes,
Okay,
it's difficult.
thank you. Questions for this testifier? Thank you for being here. Next, opponent.
Good afternoon. Travis Hobbs, Brown County, TRAVIS, HOBBS. I am the ex officio clerk of the district court. I am adamantly opposed to district court duties being transferred to the clerk magistrate. As the ex officio clerk of the district court, I am an elected official. This creates another level of accountability to all constituents. I make it a priority to attend the yearly workshops and any additional trainings made available if possible. I am always available for my staff to get a hold of me via my cell phone if a question arises on a court-related matter that they are unable to answer. I carry my laptop with me and have stopped in the middle of my vacation to process a filing if needed. These are the types of obligations that we as elected officials do not take lightly, as we are employees of the residents of each of our own counties. LB 46 will adversely affect Brown County. As with a lot of counties, office and storage space is an issue. If the offices are to merge, then the county will be forced to create more office space for the county court to contain the records. As we are all aware, this comes with a great expense to the county. Currently, I employ 1 full-time and a part-time staff member. If LB 46 passes, I will have a tough decision regarding that part-time position in my office. Currently, I have the workload to support the full-time and a part-time person. If I was to have to cut that position, not only does it negatively affect the individual, but it'll affect my office, as there are many times in our busy season that even without the district court, that person is needed to help with other seasonal office duties. It can be argued that dollars will be saved by the county by eliminating that position, but we all know that any money saved on the county budget level will be sent to Lincoln to fund this transition. Furthermore, the county is paying the clerk's salary. Transferring will add unnecessary additional expenses for a new position the state will create. If LB 46 passes, the transition will not be seamless, as the difference between county and district court is substantial. I have been in my position for over 9 years and still learning as practices are continually evolving. It is a well-known fact, due to overseeing multiple counties, that county court personnel are not available every day in every county. While at the decision of the Supreme Court, the county courts are available remotely, district court is open and staffed every day of the week. In 2023, LB 363, the most recent time consolidation was proposed, the AOCP testified to remedy the lack of staffing to install a kiosk. In my time as ex officio clerk of district court, I have witnessed the urgency that comes with district court matters where an on-location clerk makes a difference. When a petitioner is distraught from an abuse or harassment situation, they need a person to speak with and take their petition, not have to drive to the next county if they're lucky enough to get out with a vehicle to drive. In District 8, our remoteness creates its own set of issues that the judges, district court clerks, and clerk magistrates have navigated successfully. We work together to ensure that our people are taken care of. I currently take documents and payments for county court when they are closed. Thank you for the time hearing my concerns. Do you have any questions?
Thank you very much. Are there questions? I have a clarifying question. Under LB 46, you say you will have to get rid of your part-time person. I'm not following why that is.
If I'm at that, I have enough duties in my office because I am the one that wears many hats. If we get rid of district court, it might be just enough that I don't have enough to do for my part-time employee. But yet it's a struggle because during election time, during budget times, those times we are busy and we need that extra person. So it's just kind of a balance of if I have enough work at all times for them, if I lose district court.
Perfect, thank you. Sarah Abad.
Thank you. I just have one question, Madam Chair. Do you feel like there are efficiencies that you've implemented over like the last year, 3 years, 5 years that speak to your responsibilities in that office? I think you're probably constantly looking for efficiencies. Is there anything that you've been required to do that have forced some of those efficiencies or maybe have helped you be more efficient in your office?
They have, some of the updates that they have done with the technology, it has helped us be more efficient.
That's a good answer. All right, thank you.
Other questions? Thank you so much for being here. We'll take our next opponent.
Hello, Amber Mulberry, Sling County Clerk of the District Court Office, Wilbur.
Can you
Check-
spell your name?
Yep, AMBERMULBERY.
Thank you.
The word on the street is you guys are here to solve a property tax crisis. LB 46 does not appear to do that. Taking ex officios does not result in property tax relief. The county is still employing the person as the clerk, as others have already stated. I'm confused, as well as you should be. If the judicial branch wants to contribute to property tax relief, their path forward should start with taking responsibility for what they already have, what they already control. And let's make no mistake about it. This is about control, not property tax relief. In the past, the judicial branch has indicated they would use a kiosk or a touchscreen pad to do business. Do you see this face? This is the face of humanity. This is the voice of humanity. I'm dealing with people in some of the most critical times in their life. The day after a domestic violence incident, when they come in to seek a protection order after having been in a car accident, the morning they decide to come in and file paperwork to get custody of their child, the afternoon where they call in to ask questions about filing for divorce. If you want to talk about access to justice, it does not start at a kiosk. It starts in a county, in a community, and with the people's vote to elect the clerk of the district court, the people we serve. And you all understand that because you're elected officials. And it's different. It's different than being an employee. And there's no reason to grow state government. If the judicial branch has all this money to spare, the path forward perhaps could be updating the record-keeping system that was started in the 90s, a system that has flaws and lacks the fluency of work and viewing. It really lacks the growth of the 21st century. And if the judicial branch wants to take people in, show me where the legislation has been introduced to take over county-paid law clerks, county-paid bailiffs, county-paid judicial administrators. I've been here for the last 8 years and I haven't seen any of it. So ask yourself why. These positions operate at the pure pleasure of the judge. And yet we're not hearing about taking these people in. LB 46 is not doing that. This should raise a question mark to you about intent. Listen, we're in Nebraska, and it might not be for everybody, but we should be okay with standing up for the preservation of a system that has stood the test of time. You see, even before there was a court administrator introduced into statute in the 70s,
I'm going to ask you to start this.
I have just like a little bit.
All right.
There were clerks of the district court. At least we forget 100 years ago in Douglas County where the clerk of the district court, Robert Smith, stood up to a crime boss and widespread corruption in Douglas County. And you have to believe that there is a reason for the separation of power. And with that, I hope you oppose this. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions for this testifier? I don't see any today. Thank you so much for being here. Next opponent. Thank you, all of you who came from such a distance to come and testify today.
Good afternoon. My name is Matt Fisher, Mattfischer, Clerk of District Court for Knox County. And while LB 46 does not directly affect me as a standalone clerk, I'm here in opposition of the bill. I know the special session is to address skyrocketing property taxes. I'm aware this is a serious issue facing property owners. One of my family's largest annual expenses on the farm is paying to keep the land that we already own. LB 46 is not exactly a complete tax savings on the county level, and I have to ask, in the 10 counties where the district court functions have already been moved from the county clerk to the AOCP, how much of those county clerks reduce their staff because of the reduced workload or reduce their payroll? Will the AOCP absorption of the remaining ex officio district court clerks result in expense reductions to those county clerks? To totally eliminate the payroll burden that the district courts put on the counties, that would require the AOCP to absorb all 93 counties. And there have been bills brought forth over the past 4 decades to that effect, but none have prevailed. One made it to the governor's desk. And those bills only address payroll, not the physical plant expenses, which still fall on the county. Real county level tax relief would be if the AOCP absorbed all expenses, supplies, equipment, furniture, similar to how DHHS took over the county social service offices in 1982. But that didn't happen when the AOCP took over the county court 5 decades ago. The counties still pay for everything except for computers and payroll, and it will be the same with the district court. And what's never mentioned, court costs, sheriff's service fees, juror expenses, those are all still paid with county tax dollars to the benefit of a state-run office. What isn't realized is that the clerks of district court are already partially self-funded, reducing the burden on local tax dollars. Based on our workload handling 4D child support cases, we receive federal reimbursement that's conveyed to us by the Nebraska DHHS. Right now, in a county of 8,300 people, we receive enough annual reimbursement to cover 90% of my deputies' wages, and the remainder is a good share of that is covered by passport fees. Both my deputy and I are personally accountable to our constituents, the taxpayers who elected us, and we do everything we can to keep the expenditures to minimum because we know where the money comes from, our neighbors and from our own pockets. We strive to stay in compliance with whatever the AOCP and our judges ask us to do, and at the same time guard the local purse. To truly make a district court absorption by the AOCP successful and do justice to the courts and its patrons, there's so much more time needed and statutory cleanup required that this special session truly can't afford given the daunting task that's before you for property tax relief. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions for this testifier? I don't see any today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Next opponent.
Hello, my name is Crystal Rhodes, CrystalRhoades, and I am the clerk of the District Court in Douglas County. I'm in opposition to LB 46. Elimination of the elected clerks of the District Court will do nothing to reduce costs. What it will do instead is transfer the cost from the county to the state and frankly reduce accountability to the electorate. It is the only office within the judiciary branch that answers directly to the electorate. And we are responsible for making sure that our offices operate as efficiently and cost effectively as possible. that is not a responsibility that you all want falling at your feet, I assure you. My colleagues have succinctly talked about the diminished customer service, so I'm not going to bemoan that point. But it is also unclear what impact such consolidations or reimbursements would have on union contracts, which of course would be an issue in my county in particular. Many of our court employees are covered by a union agreement, and the result is that they have much higher pay and they have pensions. Quite frankly, in my county, there's a real difficulty in even staffing the county court due to the very low wages. The other thing is that it's really unclear where the AOCP is coming from on a lot of these issues. They are not engaging the clerks, the elected clerks at all. Instead, they're showing up at our conferences and workshops and broadly announcing that they're going to get this done and institute these takeovers of our offices. In my view, a better way to save money is to improve the efficiency of our software systems. As you know, we are using an ancient, antiquated, terrible software that is very time intensive and labor intensive. In my office alone, it is estimated that we could save about $700,000 annually if we were to have appropriate software. Again, the AOCP says someday we're going to have new software, but they have not engaged us in any meaningful way about when that will occur, how that will occur, and what will happen. I will tell you, I have 11 full-time people. I have 5 that scan documents and 4 that create paper files. I have 2 that I had to hire to review 30,000 image errors in the justice software left over from a botched conversion that they did more than a decade ago. We're still moving around a lot of paper because of the self-represented litigants not being able to e-file and judges refusing to e-file. Why are they refusing to e-file? Because the software is terrible. It's not user-friendly. It's not reliable. They don't trust it. So what ends up happening is I have 2 departments full of full-time staff that probably could be eased out through attrition if we had software that we could make a proper, thoughtful conversion to. I've got 50 years worth of documents in the basement of our courthouse that all needs to be digitized and preserved in new software. This would save a very significant amount of money.
I need to have you wrap it up, please.
Okay, one last point. Another way that software could actually end up saving you a lot of money, and the good senator here asked a question about that earlier. In my court, 2 days a week, part-time afternoons, we had to hire a court reporter to come in and do Board of Mental Health hearings. It cost the county $36,000 annually. We are replacing that court reporter service with software. It's going to cost us $500 annually. I would suggest strongly consider what you'd want to do is phase out or phase in court reporting software through natural attrition as those court reporters retire, resign, or as new judges are appointed. That concludes my testimony to you, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions for this testifier? I don't see any. Thank you for being here. Next, opponent.
Good afternoon. My name is Janet Buckelman, JANET-WIECHELMAN. I'm the elected clerk of District Court for Cedar County and also but the legislative liaison for the Clerk of District Court Association. I did prepare any testimony because in reading the initial bill, it's mishmash. I'll be honest with you. If you're basing it on an election every 4 years to eliminate a clerk of district court, is there any gain to it? But I understand there's an amendment out there and we have not had the opportunity to see it. So I'm not really sure how we can really comment to that as far as whether or not something we will support or still oppose. To not be disparaging to attorneys or judges, yes, the justice system does help us. It does provide us some form of consistency. But still, when we get filings and we're asked to file this in a certain way or act on a judge's order a certain way, we have to understand, we have to go by what's been presented to us. Yes, we would all love consistency. We all would. It would help the system move much easier. But we are limited in some forms when we have the filings that we do. One of my concerns brought up in the fiscal notice in the testimony is the transition of employees. As I stated, we have not seen a bill. We don't know if that transition includes ourselves or even our own employees. How does that work if that's going to be the issue? Are they going to be guaranteed the same years of service across to a vacation or sick leave plan? How's it going to work? Are they going to be able to take some of their sick leave and vacation leave over to the new system? There's a lot of unknowns to this, and I guess we really would reach out to the clerk administrator's office if they'd like to present to us or to NACO the bill and what the proposal is. We sure take a look at it. But in the present form, we do oppose to it because it's not saving the county anything. Like, is it indicated before the ex officios? There's not going to be any change hardly. And full-time CDCs, there may not be either, because how is county court going to be able to assume judicial duties of clerk of district court? They're going to need more staffing, so therefore they're going to have to hire more individuals. I just would like to add, many testifiers talked about the other things that the counties are required to provide. I was able to come some nights to kind of go through some of the budgets and give you a highlight, what it costs to support the county court offices now, what the counties are paying to support those state offices. Also, I've put in the last couple of years, how much the counties are expending in court-appointed attorneys' fees, public defenders, jury cost. Those costs the counties cannot always assume what's going to be. Situations change, crimes are committed. It's difficult for the counties to understand that. If you're willing to provide some sort of compensation for the counties or take over some of the county functions of that, we'd be pleased also to have a conversation about that. Thank you for your time. I'll be willing to take any questions.
Are there any questions for this testifier? Senator Holcroft.
I'm looking through this and I'm wondering how you put this all together in just 3 days.
Well, if you ask the Cedar County Sheriff's Office to check their video system, you'll see that I've been in my office every single night since this came out Monday morning. I can't do it during my office time. I'm busy enough with the caseload I have right now, but worked with the clerks to try to give me the stuff, and I was making copies and making this information at night.
And did you put out some kind of call, for these comments? You must have.
As far as the budget information, some of it was provided by some of the clerks of district court. Some of it I did go into the budgets that are presented to the public auditor's office and got the information from that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Next opponent. Anyone else here in opposition to this bill? Is there anyone who would like to testify in the neutral capacity? Anyone in the neutral? I don't see any. For the record, there are 46, or this is LB 46, there are 5 opponent letters. Senator Wayne has indicated that he did not wish to close, so that will end our hearing on LB 46. Our next bill is LB 53, and we're waiting for Senator Wayne to return. So we'll take a brief recess until we see Senator Wayne return. Senator Wayne has returned. Now we have LB 53.
Good afternoon. My name is Justin Wayne, Justinwayne, and I represent Legislative District 13, which is North Omaha and Northeast Douglas County. I was watching on my earpiece while I was at Revenue. On the last hearing, and this is the same kind of conversation that's going to happen. At the end of the day, we pass laws. 90% of the people who are sitting in the county jail is charged with the law that we passed. One of our biggest unfunded mandates is how we operate our judicial system to counties. While in Nebraska, this may seem odd, there are a lot of other states that operate completely different than how we operate on a county basis. Many of them operate at a regional level, from regional attorneys to county jails, et cetera. When tasked with property tax relief, I said this before, I look at what every committee should be doing as a judicial chair is looking at their committee of where they could find it. And if you look at the fiscal note, there's 200 million. 200 million to 64 counties is not a drop in the bucket. And 64 counties are the ones who actually have the jails, but all counties charge people with crimes. And again, unless you're a municipality, where it's Bellevue, Omaha, Lincoln, Lexington, they have some city code violations. But the majority, if not 90% or more, are state laws they are being charged they broke. The least we can do is fund them. Maybe do I want to take some things over a little far at the county attorney level? Absolutely. And that's because we have seen inconsistently things being applied, and that'll be another bill. But we are literally in Douglas County sending people to Sarpy County, to Cass County, to Lancaster County, as far as Madison County, because we can't have certain people in certain populations for safety reasons, or can't have certain people in certain populations because they can witness tamper. So if you look at Cass County or Sarpy County, you'll see many people who are there are Omaha crimes. Why is the county carrying that cost? If you want to talk about significant property tax relief, 200 million by reimbursing the counties. We're not taking over their operations. We're not taking over their employees. But at a minimum, we're the ones who are passing the law. We should reimburse them. To me, it's just a no-brainer. We should fund what we say we're going to make a law. And if it's a law and we say you violate it, we should pay for that violation, not the county. And I'll answer any questions.
Any questions for Senator Wayne? Senator Holcroft first.
Thank you, Vice Chair DeBoer. I think we used to, this has not been done before. I mean, this has been done before, right? I mean, this was, I think it was under Governor Heineman where we stopped reimbursing the county jail. So it's something that we should probably be.
It was a smaller percentage, not 100% before Heineman. And then we also had before Heineman municipal aid to cities for different reasons. Both of those were nixed. So it's not very rarely have I ever came up with a new idea. I just find other people's ideas. And so this was done before, and I just think it's an opportunity to have that conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Holcroft. Senator Decay.
Thank you. Has there been a dollar amount tagged to this on how much it would be? Would it be on a daily basis, and would it be uniform
Yes.
statewide?
So the operational cost for each jail is unfortunately based off of the counties, based off of salaries, based off of how many people. But the average one last year, and I think this year too, was $81 a day. And so whatever those counties would be reimbursed, I think they send an invoice and we reimburse them every month. That'd be the ideal for me. But I think the way the bill is written, they would certify what the amount is and we would reimburse them the following year. So they wouldn't receive any benefit this year, but they would start in 2025 of 206 million or something like that.
Thank you, Senator Decay.
Thank you.
Other questions? Senator Bosin.
Thank you, Senator Wayne. So under this plan, what is, so the reimbursement comes out of the state general fund.
Correct.
And what is your proposal for how we increase our state general fund?
So I have a lot
compensatory?
of ideas on how we can do it. I did not include that in my bill because it would have went to revenue.
What's wrong with revenue?
Well, then you don't have control of what happens to your bills. So that's why I didn't put a funding mechanism. But right now we're plus, right? We have proposals for property tax relief that would take over complete school funding, even if we were to reduce that by 30%. So the locals would fund it 30 cents out of 100. Then that remaining 30 cents is roughly the 200 million. So there's, according to the revenue plan put forth by governor, there's enough funding to do it. It'd just be where we shifted from.
So, and I'm trying to understand, so your plan is that this would come out of judiciary and be attached as an amendment essentially to some greater revenue package?
Or passed on the floor by itself, and you'd have two bills moving at the same time. So how TIOSA was originally passed is you had an education bill and a funding bill, and they went lockstep through the process. So they passed on general, they passed on select, and they passed on final reading together.
But how would you guarantee then that the 200 million goes to,
That's why you have them in lockstep.
so they reference each other then
Right.
essentially?
Essentially.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't explain that very well.
Thank you, Senator Bosm. I think Senator Ibach had a question.
I just have one quick question, just for clarification. In the past, did we fund per prisoner that wasn't a county prisoner, or did we fund the entire jail?
It wasn't the entire jail. It was a per prisoner cost. Well, no, it was just a reimbursement at a percentage, and I think it was like 30 or 40%.
Per inmate, or it's
Per
not
inmate.
transfer inmate, though? It was transferring inmate?
Per inmate,
Per inmate.
I believe. But I believe
Okay.
John's still gonna, Nako's still gonna be here to help. Okay, somebody's shaking their head yes, so
Okay.
they'll be here.
Because my local Dawson County, I know that we've had this conversation a lot, and I guess I never really clarified with him whether it was a per transfer inmate or if it was per inmate, whether they were from the county or not.
Oh, and we did reimbursements.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't know the answer to that because, yeah, I didn't think about that. It wasn't until, so I graduated in 95, 96, at least in Omaha, is where we started seeing a more of transferring people
Yeah.
due to safety issues. Prior to that, there just wasn't that many gang issues. And now we're seeing a lot more where we have people who are co-defendants in different counties.
And then some of those transfer inmates, it's not due to overcrowding, it's more due to conflict of interest or?
I've seen both,
Okay.
at least in my private practice, but a lot of it is co-defendants or safety issues. A lot of it is.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Vice
Senator
Chair.
Ibach. Other questions? So right now, if there is a state prisoner sentenced already, sitting in the jail in that program, right? Do we do that? Would you not send them?
So if it's under a year,
Yeah, that's right.
even if it's a state sentence, my understanding, if it's under a year, it is still on the county's dime. It's a 366 days, they go down to state prison.
I thought we gave like $17 or $31 a day or some ridiculous
I don't,
token amount.
maybe, I
Okay.
haven't seen that.
Maybe, okay, maybe not. And then what is the cost to house someone in a jail, do you know?
Right now, according to the fiscal note previously, it was $81 a day on average across the state.
Across the state?
Correct.
And we are reimbursing nothing.
My understanding, yes.
And you would have us pay just for state prisoners, or you would have us pay for
All prisoners.
all prisoners?
And
So that would handle the transfer cost because
Yes, it would still
you
be
don't have to
covered.
pay for,
I mean, where the quote unquote windfall would be is if you're charged with a misdemeanor underneath the city ordinance.
right,
But again, there are not a lot of small communities who have city ordinances, and even the ones that are charged under the city ordinance, like Omaha city ordinances are 65% duplicate of state crimes. So There's a DUI, and there's a city DUI. So to me, I'll accept that windfall.
So now the jails are paid for by the state. Does the state have control over them? Because we keep having these local control discussions
No.
about if the state gets to choose X, Y, and Z, what the inmates eat for dinner, whatever, I don't know.
No, I had a bill to take over all corrections in there. That didn't go over very well. So now we're just trying to do reimbursements.
Just reimbursements.
Just reimbursements.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Senator Wayne. First proponent.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair DeBoer and members of the Judiciary Committee. For the record, my name is Elaine Menzel. That's ELAINE MENZEL. Here today on behalf of the Nebraska Association of County Officials in support of LB 53. I would also like to record the support of the Nebraska Sheriff's Association. I am having passed out correspondence from both the Sheriff Cardenas from Morrill County, who is the current president of the Sheriff's Association, and also Buffalo County Sheriff Neil Miller expressing their support for the bill. First, I'll touch on a couple of things, and then I'll try to, hopefully, to the best of my recollection, talk about jail reimbursement in the past, because that question was being discussed earlier. First, we would like to express a great deal of appreciation to Senator Wayne for recognizing the significance of jails in the county government structure of functions. As he mentioned, he had introduced legislation, I was going to say last year, but earlier this session, that would have taken over county jails and operations and paid for some of that. Our objection was local control. We obviously would have appreciated the funding, but the loss of local control was a concern. This bill is different in that we would still have the local control and yet have a reimbursement mechanism similar to what had occurred in the past, but it's a little bit broader, as I'll reference in a second. I had provided you a copy of a proposed amendment that we have, and that's attached with the information that was handed out. The rationale for proposing that is that the Douglas County Jail is not under the same structure as the other jails, meaning it's not under jail standards, but rather the American Correctional Association. That does have a citation to the statutory section for those purposes, and we would just ask that you include all the jails. With respect to jail reimbursement, as I recall, it was $35 a day. There's where you're getting your amount of money. We had at times asked for it to be increased and those types of things. And per inmate, there was a set amount. I'm going to say it was perhaps $6 million. I could be off on the dollar amount. The difficulty with that was that it was a first come, first served basis. Therefore, you didn't miss. I see my time has expired.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll have some questions for you. So are there questions? Senator Boswell.
If you could finish your thought.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. It was essentially a first come, first served basis for purposes of being reimbursed. So in the amount that Douglas County came in and asked for, say, the full $6 million, then none of the remaining 65 or however many jails were able to get any sort of reimbursement. That's perhaps an extreme example, but there were many counties that were short funding or under that mechanism. I will tell you that the loss of jail reimbursement is still stuck in the craw of many sheriffs who remember that. But with that said, the the basis for it being cut was essentially that it was at the time that the legislature was having to make funding cuts for other types of programs, roughly in 2001, or well, maybe that's not quite the right year, but whenever, maybe 2017 is when all the cuts were occurring. But I apologize for going on.
No, that's okay. Are there other questions? Senator Decay?
Yeah, the $81 a day that there might be the average, does that include everything as far as like, say, if they have a public defender, does that include those costs? My question is if you have a person going from Douglas County up to Madison County, who covers the cost of that public defender's time and travel expenses at that point in time?
I believe that the $81 a day that's being referenced for the inmate costs is strictly for the care and operation of jails, for providing maintenance and boarding and some of those types of services for the inmate. It's not gonna, well, I shouldn't say this, but it would probably include also their medical expenses. The public defender and county attorney costs are going to be separate and apart from those. We do have some figures on that as well, if that's of interest to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Decay. Other questions? So my understanding is that at one point, let's say before 2017 or whatever point that shifted, we paid, you said $35 a day, but was that for everyone, or is that for someone that was sitting on an ordinance, or was that just for state?
I don't remember quite the terminology, but I believe it was for convicted inmates within the jail.
Okay.
There was some terminology.
And there was, what you're saying is basically there was a pool of money that was a line item in the budget.
Yes.
And everyone got $35 a day for all their daily, but that the money ran out too quickly because we did not allocate enough money to actually reimburse all the folks who would have been entitled to it.
Yeah, yes, essentially, yes.
Okay, that is great. That clears that up for me.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there other questions? Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, I appreciate your time.
Yeah. Let's have our next proponent. Anyone else in favor of the bill? Anyone who would like to testify in opposition? Anyone in opposition to the bill? Anyone in the neutral capacity? Senator Wayne? Do we know Senator Wayne coming? Okay, Senator Wayne is ostensibly on his way. Here is Senator Wayne. Senator Wayne to close. There were two opponents.
All right.
He waives his close.
Unless you guys have questions. If you have questions, I'll answer.
Are there any questions? There are not. Therefore, we will go. I did say that for the record, LB 53 had two opponents. That ends our hearing on LB 53. And we will now begin our hearing on LB 54. Senator Wayne.
County District Attorney. All right. Good afternoon. My name is Justin Wayne, JUSTINWAYNE, and I represent Legislative District 13, which is North Omaha and Northeast Douglas County. Brought this bill last year, again, looking for ways that judiciary can contribute to property tax relief and find efficiencies in our system. And one of the ways is district attorneys. This is not a new concept. Many states have them, South Dakota in particular. One, it saves multiple ways. It saves from local elections as a cost savers, which is not included in the fiscal note. But also you'll see it's about $12 million that we could take off of local counties from just the offices itself. I did get feedback from last session regarding estate work and civil work. and we left those in there for county attorneys or the county to either hire an attorney to do that or contract out, which they could do already. Again, this is about if they are prosecuting crimes, they are state laws, we should be paying for that. And the second part of that is uniformity. As many of you know who were here part of LB 50 and other conversations, we have some counties that prosecute residue, some counties that don't, some counties that charge habituals on class 4 felonies, some counties that don't. We have a variety of things, and I don't think your rights should change based off of the county you're in. That's just a fundamental thing that I believe, that if I drive through the state of Nebraska, I should be pulled, if I'm pulled over, I should be charged with a crime, no matter I'm in Lexington or in Omaha, it should be uniform. And we don't have that. We have disparity, and we have a lot of disparity. And so I'm trying to bring uniformity to that. And there is always the question of what about public defenders? We don't have a statewide public defender. We do have a statewide Nebraska Attorney General. That's why a public defender is not there. If we want to create a statewide public defender, I don't know how that would work, but we could do that. But that's why there isn't a public defender. We don't have a statewide public defender that we could have somebody be under. What is interesting about particularly rural counties is if there is a major crime, right now our Nebraska Attorney General's office already goes out there and we already pay for the trial. Most of the time they are the ones trying the case or doing all the work because their office doesn't have the staff to do it. So we're already paying for it right now. So let's just put what we practice into actually reality. So we have some counties that can't even have it or don't even have anybody run for county district attorney. So to me, it just makes sense. Again, if we're going to have a property tax discussion, let's look at all systems. And I think one of them structurally is our county attorneys and how we operate. I believe this bill also calls for exempting the big 3 counties from that process because it seems like the issues are not necessarily in those counties. So I'm trying to be flexible and take the feedback that I got from the previous bill. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions for Senator Wayne? Senator Bosley?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Have you given any consideration to proposing the option for the districts to vote to do something like this, as opposed to, like you've carved out for districts 3 and 4, I think is what the bill says, but putting to those areas where they struggle to find someone to even run for the position, saying, okay, why don't these 4 counties in Judicial District 11 vote if they want to have a system like this, so that then they don't feel like it's being forced on them.
I don't want to use Conrad's words, but let's tease this out a minute. She always says that, it drives me crazy. But so the answer is yes, I'd be open to it, but I don't know what that vote looks like is what I'm trying to figure out. So it is a vote to form a compact, because they can already do that through an interlocal agreement.
But they still have to have an elected county attorney that can't be in both. You can't be the elected county attorney in 2 neighboring counties.
We have that right now, Your Honor. We have counties in one who are contracting for the work of counties of others.
But they're not running in both of them.
No, that's what I'm asking. So there wouldn't be an election in any of them? Is that what you're proposing?
No, what I guess.
Because right now we have counties who, County A has a district prosecutor or county prosecutor. County B did not have anybody run, so the county commissioners contracted County A to do that work.
So something similar to that, but essentially they would be able to decide as County A and County B in your example, and be bigger districts. I mean, the map was, there's 13 judicial districts.
Correct.
A judicial district would vote as a district, like they right now have a district judge, to say, okay, do we want to do this to pool our funds, our resources, and use our time? Because right now they're having court 1 day a month,
right,
and they don't need it. So then that would be up to them, and they maintain that local control as to whether or not they want to do that with all the counties.
So when you allow people to opt in, and I did this on Urban Affairs, when you allow people to annex, you got to figure out how you're going to allow them to detach. So it's a one-time vote, they never get to vote out?
I'm just asking if this is something you would consider. So
Yeah, so the answer is yes, I would. Yes, I would consider. I've thought about that. But then if 5 out of the 6 counties vote, then is the 6 six county having the same problem of it being done to them too. So there was a lot of logistical reasons. So like in Omaha, there is no detachment. It's the only one of the Omaha and Lincoln, there is no detachment. Every other village you can actually detach. So if you don't want to be a part of a city, you can actually vote to get out of it. But in Omaha, you can't. So going through that scenario, trying to update those statutes in urban affairs, I think it became too complicated when we were looking at it 3 or 4 years ago. So that was the issue. But I'll still be open to it. We can think through how it happens.
That was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Bozen. Next question. Anybody else with a question? Senator Holcroft.
Thank you, Vice Chair DeBoer.
Did I miss the joke here? Or did
Just recognize
I
did. I think, and I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't one of the issues with this bill before is that county attorneys are elected and district attorneys are appointed, correct? So are we taking away some of the people's choice of their prosecutors?
Theoretically, yes, but I would argue no, because they get to vote on the Nebraska Attorney General, who would hire those individuals. So if they didn't like how things were being prosecuted in their county, they could vote for somebody else at the state level.
Well, at the state level, but having more local control, obviously, at the county level would give the counties, I think, the county attorney in a specific county would be a better reflection of the people in his county.
Right, and that's the issue is we pass state laws, and it is their discretion at the county level on which ones to enforce. And the problem is you have some counties who won't prosecute X, Y, and Z, and then other counties who will take that to the mat. So you driving through the state of Nebraska, you could be prosecuted for different things, even though you're doing the same thing. And I don't think that's fair either.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Holcroft.
Thank you, Vice Chair DeBoer.
Senator Holcroft. Are there any other questions? I don't see any. Thank you, Senator Wayne. We'll take our first proponent. First person who would like to speak in favor of this bill. We'll switch to opponents. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this bill? Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is David Solheim, David Solheim, and I live and practice law in Crete, which is in Saline County, Nebraska, and I am also the elected Saline County attorney there. Today, I am testifying in opposition to LB 54 on behalf of the Nebraska County Attorneys Association. And the bill has prompted some good initial discussion among county attorneys about the need for additional resources, which there is, and to help counties with their criminal and juvenile statutory duties, but while also balancing the importance of local control. You know, the overwhelming concern and the basis for the association's opposition to both LB 963 earlier this year and today's bill is the erosion of that local control and the accountability to the voters of the county and to the county board. And these matters are of particular concern and importance when it comes to criminal prosecution, setting bonds on criminal offenses, and decisions impacting county jails. And a good example of this is the situation in my county. Our county is often compared to Seward County, which is just north of us, but we are very different counties. And in our county, for example, we have Crete. Crete is a majority Latino population community. Many of those people are undocumented. They have an inability to get a driver's license. They have immigration consequences that attach to their criminal cases. And there are just cultural differences for some of those folks who are newly arrived in our country. And so who better to understand those issues than somebody who lives and works in that county rather than a broader district attorney? So, that would be one concern, is that loss of local control. The there is some prospect for uniformity given through the judges who are already organized by district, and they give some uniformity in sentencing. In juvenile cases, there are occasionally disagreements between the county attorney and the Department of Health and Human Services. And this occurs when there are issues about visitations, services ordered for the parents, reunification, termination. Sometimes the county attorney is at odds with DHHS. And when that happens, if the district attorney is employed by the attorney general, then you've got two attorneys under the same office at odds with each other, which would require then another attorney or some solution to this conflict of interest. You know, the County Attorneys Association is open to further collaboration between the Attorney General's office and county attorney's offices. In my experience, there is great, red means stop. Okay.
Red means stop.
Okay, very good. Well, I'll conclude there and would take any questions that you guys might have.
Are there questions for this testifier? I don't see any.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. We'll take our next opponent.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair DeVore and members of the Judiciary Committee. My name is Mike Guinan, Mikeguinan, and I'm the Criminal Bureau Chief of the Nebraska Attorney General's Office. I appear before you today on behalf of the Attorney General's Office and in opposition to LB 54. We appreciate Senator Wayne for bringing the bill and the conversation around how to lower property taxes in Nebraska. In addition, there is a need for more lawyers in greater Nebraska, and think about solutions for that crisis is very important to the Attorney General. However, there are several issues with the bill that we have concerns with. First of all, the change from the county attorneys to district attorneys would represent a wholesale change in responsibility. Currently, the Attorney General's office does, like the county attorneys, handle criminal prosecutions around the state. Unlike the county attorneys, however, the office does not handle a wide variety of local issues, including representing counties in civil matters, in civil actions, coroner duties, processing mental health cases, and advising county and elected officials. These duties would presumably still be left for the counties to manage. At the same time, the Attorney General's office would be required to expand exponentially to handle on a statewide level, if this bill were to become law, all criminal and juvenile court matters across the state. Likely then in its hiring, we would be targeting in considerable part the county attorneys, the deputy county attorneys and their staffs of these 90 counties that are affected by this legislation. As noted in the accompanying fiscal note, the budget for the pay, benefits, travel, training, and so on of these individuals is not presently ascertainable. Second, there is an important level of local control and accountability in the current system that would be lost in the district attorney system. Having prosecutors closest to the people enables a more responsive and accountable system. Having district attorneys, which would report to the Attorney General instead of an electorate, would erode that structure. Last, if the committee to pursue this bill, we would also note that the implementation timeline of 2 years is not practical and almost certainly not sufficient time for such a wholesale transition. For these reasons, we ask that you not advance LB 54, and I'd be happy to take any questions at this time.
Are there questions for this testifier? Senator McKinney.
Thank you, Vice Chair DeVore. I'm curious, how does other states that do have district attorneys make it work?
How did they make it work?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure how. There are, as Senator Wayne noted, there are states that have district attorney systems. There are states that have county attorney systems surrounding Nebraska. I know that Iowa and Kansas have a county attorney system. As Senator Wayne had mentioned, South Dakota has a district attorney system. I suppose they make it work maybe by a tradition. Maybe that's what they were used to. Maybe they were accustomed and had that from the outset, but I guess I'm not sure.
But it's not like an impossible concept, though.
No, it's certainly not an impossible concept, no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator McKinney. Other questions? I don't see any. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We'll take our next opponent.
Good afternoon again, Vice Chair of the Board and members of the Judiciary Committee. For the record, my name is Elaine Menzel. That's ELAINE MENZEL, here on behalf of the Nebraska Association of County Officials in opposition to LB 54. I will attempt to not repeat what the prior two testifiers said because I piggyback on what they have to say with respect to most of their issues. The one thing I will just comment specifically on is related to civil matters and county attorneys being advisors to county officials and that type of thing. There would be a huge void left if it was a district system where the Attorney General's office took over just strictly the criminal matters rather than the civil as well, and not leave that guidance for the county boards and other officials. One other thing in terms of with respect to the shortage of attorneys in outstate Nebraska, and there are tools that can be used in terms of interlocal agreements, which they do at this time. There are situations where county attorneys are elected in one county and appointed in another adjacent to or close to. I want to say one county attorney perhaps has as many as 6 or 7 counties that he or she is responsible for and that type of thing. So there are alternatives, and the same goes for their staff with respect to being able to cover those functions. With that said, I think, and local control is one of the things as was expressed earlier. So again, those are just a couple of highlights of issues I wanted to raise. So if there's any questions, I'd attempt to answer them.
Any questions? Senator McKinney.
Thank you, Vice Chair of the Board. Thank you for your testimony. On the conversation of local control, I guess I'm curious, would a district attorney system eliminate any perceived bias that is within a county attorney's system currently because you're so local?
I think when I'm suggesting local control for purposes of this legislation, I think I'm suggesting that the decision makers regarding who have the prosecutorial discretion are more familiar with the situations of the environment where the values of the constituencies relate to crimes that have been established by the state.
I guess that's my point, having somebody more from a district level than a county level to still understand the different things that goes on within different counties, but having somebody that isn't as connected because of perceived biases of the current county attorney system, having somebody from a district level instead of just saying like we want somebody that understands the people there and where they come from. Yes, you want somebody, they all would most likely be from Nebraska anyway, but having somebody that isn't as connected could potentially decrease what is perceived as some biases within the current system.
I shouldn't share this, but once in a while I will say that people will ask me to move back to my hometown, which is a small community in north central Nebraska. And I say, well, I can't go back because I would either prosecute or defend all of my relatives. So there would be sometimes too much of a connection to a local area. But for the most part, we would suggest local control is the best option.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator McKinney. Are there other questions for this testifier? I don't see any. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Next opponent. Next opponent. Is there anyone here to testify in the neutral capacity? I do not see any. As Senator Wayne is coming up to close, I will note that there were 2 opponent letters for this bill. Senator Wayne to close.
Thank you. What I find interesting is nobody talks about the time that there weren't county attorneys. Just think, when we go into exec, well, I have all the data for you, but Nebraska didn't always have county attorneys. In fact, we had regional attorneys when we first became a state. And it wasn't until later in 1875 and then again in 1881, we authorized counties to be able to do that. And we didn't actually codify most of this until the late 50s. So this isn't a new concept. We need to relook at it and see what's best for all the states. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
Are there questions for Senator Wayne?
I will say, Senator McKinney, you should bring a bill next year to remove all the prosecutorial authorities under the Attorney General's office and promote that it's local control and people who are best close to them should prosecute all of those crimes and all of those deceptive trade practices and remove it from the county attorney's office. The Nebraska Attorney General's office.
Sounds like a good idea. I'm sure.
Are there any questions for Senator Wayne? I don't see any questions, Senator Wayne.
Are we here tomorrow?
That will end our hearing on LB 54, and that will end our hearing for today. Thank you very much.